All right, 9.5. I'm going to say trig ratios. It's technically trigonometric ratios, but you're very rarely going to hear me say the full word. I'm typically just going to say trig. Over here. All right, the first one say to find the sine, cosine, and tangent of the acute angles of the triangle. Express each value as a decimal rounded to 4 places. So to start out with, we have 10. Got our right triangle here. It's triangle RST. All right, so this is our right triangle that they've given us, and it says it wants us to find the sine, cosine, and tangent of the acute angles. Well, if this angle is 90 degrees, the other angles both have to be acute, right? Because acute's less than 90, and total angles have to add up to 180. So that means that we have to do it for both of the other ones. So we're going to do it all for R and then all for S. Now, one thing, if you're like, how am I going to keep straight which one is sine, which one's cosine, and which one's tangent? You may have heard this before. I know if you were with me in Algebra 1 last year when we very, very briefly hit the Pythagorean theorem and stuff like that, I probably said it at some point, but it's called SOHCAHTOA. This is sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And then tangent is opposite over adjacent.
Looks like a Polynesian name.
Now, there are some interesting little acronyms. I mean, I feel like if you can remember an acronym, you should be able to remember SOHCAHTOA. However, I one day was talking and my father-in-law rattled off some sentence about a horse that he learned when he was learning sine, cosine, and tangent. Anyways, I've only ever had heard SOHCAHTOA before that, and I was quite intrigued, and so I looked them up, and there's probably at least 20 different acronyms to help you remember SOHCAHTOA. So if you feel like you're struggling and you want to look up some of those acronyms and memorize one of those instead, you can, but SOHCAHTOA is a whole lot easier. Ethan looks intrigued. All right, so I'm going to start out with R. So we're going to have the sine of R. So the sine of R, it's opposite over hypotenuse. So the opposite of R is this value over here. So it's 45 over hypotenuse, which is always the longest side, 53. And then in your calculator, all you have to type is 45 divided by 53, and you're going to round to 4 decimal places. .8491. Cosine of R. So cosine is adjacent. Adjacent means the side that's touching it. So that would be this one, 28 over hypotenuse, 53. So 28 divided by 53, 0.5283. And then tangent of R is opposite, so 45 over adjacent, 28. So that's going to be 1.6071. So I've done R, I now have to do S. So the sine of S, somebody tell me what that one would be.
Hello? Hey.
Yes. Yes. Yep. Bye. Jack, you're leaving. I assume you knew that. Okay. All right. What would the sign of S be? What's the opposite? 28 over 53. Opposite is over here, and then hypotenuse is here, so 28 over 53.
0.5283.
Perfect.
Bye, have a good weekend.
You too. Cosine of S, what would that be? 45 over 53. Anybody have that decimal?
Yeah.
8491. Tangent of S.
28 over 45.
Yep, opposite over adjacent, 28 over 45. All right, so then that would be that one. 12.
You don't do it
Hmm?
You don't do T.
You're only doing the acute angles. All right, so do we want to start with X or Y? I don't care. All right, sine of X. So we've got opposite, 3 over the square root of 13. I'm assuming most of you know where your square root button is. .8321. Cosine of X.
2 over root 13.
Yep, adjacent 2 over hypotenuse, root 13. .5547. Tangent of X.
3 over 2.
Yep, opposite over adjacent, so 3 over 2. Nobody should need a calculator for that one.
1.5.
1.5. All right, now we've got to do Y. I don't know why I just started with cosine. Sine of Y.
2 over square root of 13. Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect.
2 over square root of 13. 0.5547. Cosine of Y.
3 over square root of 13.
0.8321. And tangent of Y.
2 over 3. 0.66666.
Well, rounded. What do you notice?
Cosine and sine are like opposites on different things.
Yeah, so if you're looking at the two different angles, the two different acute angles, the sine and the cosine values just swap, right? But the tangent values are totally different, right? Those are not the same thing. So that's just kind of another way you can check and see if you've done it right, is to do that. All right, the last thing we're going to do today, we're not going to finish the,
66667.
We're not going to finish this section today, but what we're going to stop at today is using our calculator to approximate the given value to 4 decimal places. So with these, this is just a trig function and then an angle measure. So sine of 48. So on your calculator, see if mine's going to show up. You're going to hit sine and then 48. You can close the parentheses if you want to. You don't have to. And then we're just going to give our values. So 0.7431.
I don't like
Wait, so all
You
you
know
do
what?
is
They're
hit
really
sign
easy, though. It's just a lot.
Really.
Yeah, whatever the trig function is
This
usually.
like a lot.
18, tangent of 81 degrees. So on this one, we're going to hit the tangent button and then 81. And that is
Bro, there's no 7, though. Come on.
6.3138 rounded.
Wait, what's the rule again? Like, is it over what number you round it?
5 or above, we round up. 4 or below, we round down. 20, cosine of 70. So you hit cosine and then 70.
0.3420.
Yep, 0.3420. Any questions on those ones? Pretty easy. All right, I'm going to go ahead and tell you what your problems are up to this point. They are not due on Monday, but I'm adding to it on Monday. So just be aware of that. If you want to get started, there's a little bit more that's going to get added before we're done with this section. So you'll add those problems to it. You are not turning this in on Monday. Do we understand that? Okay. All right. Problems up to this point, in case you want to start this weekend, are going to be 11 through
When did they do?
27 odd Tuesday. Now, the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The last 6 of those problems are all calculator questions. The first ones are, I mean, technically, I guess you're using your calculator on all of them, but the first 3 are like this, and then the last 6 are these, just typing them in. So again, if you want to start this weekend, that's fine, but you'll have time a little bit on Monday when we finish up the section. We'll probably refresh on one of these as well. There's one more even one that I skipped so that if we need to review on Monday, we can.